I think now, I mean, what we're doing is obviously we're making sure that we are having those standards that we expect from those involved in short-term lending, whether it's bridging, whether it's ground-up development, whatever it is having those standards that we expect across everywhere. Now, we could be 400, 450 lenders. We're not going to get everybody to join the BDLA. But what I found in the 3 months that I've been in the role, and I've had 43 inquiries of people wanting to join the BDLA in that short period of time, which is a huge number. Not all full members, but associates and different people to support that.
Hi, I'm Michael Allison, Commercial Director at Roma Finance, and welcome to another episode of RomaTalks, where I meet people from across the property ecosystem. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Adam Tyler, who is the new CEO of the BDLA. Hello, Adam.
Hello there, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, pleasure's all ours. Pleasure's all ours. Before we get talking about the BDLA, etc., which we'll come to, tell us a bit about yourself, how you got into finance. And
40 years ago, 40 years of history. No,
condensed into 1 minute.
Condensed into 1 minute, very 1 minute. Yeah, I started life actually selling houses, would you believe? But I've been an estate agent. I started off in the mortgage world as a mortgage advisor. I've been a property developer, been a landlord. I've worked for a high street bank, all involved in property. So it's probably 40 years I've been involved in property. And like I said, I was a broker that specialised actually in commercial property, and that's what sort of led me into a high street bank position for 10 years, and that's what led me into sort of running the trade body for brokers. And that was 21 years ago, which is unbelievable how time flies. And from that, obviously, we launched FIBA, which obviously specialised specifically with intermediaries operating, whether it's in bridging, development finance, commercial mortgages or buy-to-let. And from there, I suppose, inevitably, I was going to run into the BDLA, which I'm sure you'll ask me about in a moment.
So a long history. And what's really interesting there is that you've worn many hats during
many hats, yeah.
So that probably means that you've seen it from different customer angles as well. So I guess every one of them, the end customer is in mind, be it somebody who's buying a house from you as a home, renting a house from you as a home, you're building a home for somebody. Exactly. You've seen all of that, where I guess in our industry, the end customer and that property is still it's the same thing, isn't it?
It is, and it doesn't really matter whether it's a small studio apartment or whether it's a huge, commercial development somewhere. It's all very much the same. You still have somebody who wants that property who owns it at the very, very end. And the other thing, which I did forget to mention, of course, I've worked for different lenders along the way, so I've sat on the lender's side of the fence as well.
So at home, you must have a rack of hats that you can wear at any one time for all these different bits.
Yes, very, very much like that. Depends who I'm talking to.
Brilliant. So let's talk a little bit about the BDLA. Obviously, you've stepped into the new role recently, towards the end of last year. What is it that made you move towards the BDLA?
Well, I was actually on the steering committee in 2008 when it was talked about, when it was the Association of Short-Term Lenders. And I actually was there at the Council of Mortgage Lenders, as was when it was formed, sat around the table with all the different lenders that wanted to be part of it. Obviously, lots and lots of people that are still here today, and some are not, unfortunately. So I was there at the very, very beginning and helped it along its way, then stepped back because obviously I was running the broker organisation. This was a lender organisation. And so I've been, all the incumbents that had the role I now have, I've worked with them all very, 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 very closely over the years with that broker sort of lender relationship. So I suppose it was inevitable that at some point I was going to become involved with the BDLA far more than I had in the past. So it felt inevitability about it.
And also, what made you decide to, go into being part of the organisation for good practice of FIBA and for the BDLA? What was it that drove you towards that and to spearhead, help start one, launch one over there, and then come into this one? What is it?
I think it's because obviously the broker, they would set the brokers on the path that they wanted to go down, and the lender community obviously has always been there and always been, very, very supportive of the intermediaries. It's relied on the intermediaries. And I just felt as though, for me, sitting that side of the fence with all the experience I've had over the years, to be able to look back and say, well, how can we all work together? Yeah. It just seemed the right thing to do. And particularly, as you know, we've driven, obviously, the education initiative over the last 2 years in collaboration with FIBA and the BDLA with the CPSP. Yeah. And I just wanted to make sure that we continued that work. And obviously, being within the BDLA allowed me to do that, and has grown into lots of other things. And I'm sure you'll ask me a question about some of the things that are important, and the collaboration around education and what we're going to get the next level, I suppose, of incumbents coming into our specialist property world is also very important.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting when somebody takes that decision to do the greater good, I guess, which is what you've really strived to do over the last 21 years. I think you mentioned before, you've really tried to do something that's greater than not just what you're doing as an individual. It's about adding value back into an industry that's become really buoyant and strong. You know, the role of the broker over the last 21 years has evolved massively. The role of a specialist lender has evolved massively. And to have someone like yourself at the spearhead in that for the greater good, to make sure that the outcomes are the right thing for the customers, it's really strong.
Yeah, it has. I mean, we had a conversation around the table of people who run trade associations, and we all said, none of us actually left school and said, I want to work in the bridging industry. I want to work in finance. It doesn't have, you just sort of inevitably fall into it. And I think we all do. And you take up these roles, and these roles develop and grow. And when I first measured the bridging industry in 2005, it was worth 300 million. And I've just done the latest set of measurements for at the end of 2025 for the BDLA, and it's 13.4 billion.
Wow.
So we've seen this huge growth over that period of time, and all of us that have been involved in that have all grown the industry. We've all done that together in different ways, and I just feel as though we're now on the cusp of something else. You know, it's that next level that we're going to take this to.
I think if you look back at historically, in the early 2000s, bridging was seen as unmortgageable properties, unbackable people, unscrupulous lenders, and that was the cocktail.
Yeah.
But certainly, probably why it was around the £300 million mark, but certainly during that time, it's now firmly part of a property professional's toolkit in the unregulated space. And in the regulated space, it's really helped keep, the chain breaks with regulated bridging, etc. It's really helped keep it going forward. How do you feel that bridging can evolve even further?
Well, what I've seen over particularly the last 5 years, I suppose, maybe even a little bit longer, in my previous role, was the amount of residential mortgage brokers getting involved in our world. And I think that's where we've seen the big change, is that, when I started out, and, it was commercial finance brokers that did bridging. It was a lot of middle-aged blokes, dare I say, looking at each other, but that's what it was at the particular moment in time. And for me, one of the really nice things I've seen is that diversity, that change, how we've got more and more people involved. We always worried about succession, but we don't have to worry about that now, because we've got lots of younger people involved in specialist property finance, and having those coming from the residential world, they've brought all their regulated activities with them. So that's helped drive the professionalism, whether, we're now doing facts finds or whether it's suitability letters, just the simple things, having been in that world and been an IFA, they're just the normal things. We're bringing that into the specialist world now.
Yeah, it's that evidence of making sure that the customer's going into something that's right for them. So what are I guess the BDLA membership continues to grow. I know it does continue to grow. Some great content with regards to some of the meetings, etc., that we attend, either the smaller ones, regional, or the bigger. What's the benefits, do you feel, for a lender to be part of the BDLA?
I think now, what we're doing is obviously we're making sure that we are having those standards that we expect from those involved in short-term lending, whether it's bridging, whether it's ground-up development, whatever it is having those standards that we expect across everywhere. And then we could be 400, 450 lenders. We're not going to get everybody to join the BDLA. But what I found in the 3 months that I've been in the role, and I've had 43 inquiries of people wanting to join the BDLA in that short period of time, which is a huge number. Not all full members, but associates and different people to support that. And what they're coming to us for is actually saying, well, okay, you've set these standards up, and we've actually introducing new standards now. So we're expecting sort of annual statements from our members, which wasn't happening before. We're now asking for that. So they're coming to us and saying, look, we want to be part of this, because we see that not only customers, but also the funding community, those that are funding the bridging lenders, are expecting to see these standards now. And I think that's one of the things that the BDLA has been excellent over the years doing, and we just need to continue to do that.
I think with Roma, we've always embraced the ASTL and then into the BDLA, because we feel that whilst we operate in an unregulated world, the spirit of transparency, the spirit of good customer outcomes, and actually being a good custodian of the product set and of the industry is really key for us. And we've really enjoyed being part of it. I know Scott's played a pivotal role in that. And even some of the work that's happened, the outcome of CPSP, we were involved in, and the stuff with CIRA as well, which has been game-changing for us.
I think the things that I'm expecting to look at, first of all, origination. How do you, as a lender, how are you originating your business? I'm not talking about AI specifically. I'm talking about the use of sourcing tools, things that these regulated brokers are asking me, well, where's the education, Adam? How can we source a bridging lender? They're expecting that, and we've seen the uptick in all of those over recent times. And I've had great access, to all of those, particularly over the last 6 months on different projects. And we need to see how that's going to fit into our world, how that origination is going to fit into our world, how it's going to fit in with CIRA. Yeah. I think that's important. One of the things that I've also done for the last 16 years is done a lot of work in Westminster on behalf of the industry. I was invited in 2010, post-financial crisis, to say, well, how are small businesses getting funded? And I'm director of Westminster Group, have been for the last 10 years, I suppose now, 6 years, I suppose. And I still have that access. I was in the Bank of England last week. I was in the House of Lords in January talking about what we do as an industry and raising awareness. I think the awareness that we exist as a community is very, very important. And obviously you're talking directly to property developers. And I have property developers talk to me and say, well, how do we find funding? We don't know where's the awareness, and who are we talking to? Are we talking to the right people? And that's a role that BDLA and the broker organisations can fill.
Letting people know what to look for in a lender as well, because it's very easy to be driven rate only.
Yes.
So it's that whole service package, isn't it? Because bridging and development finance, it's an intensive product. There's a lot of touch points pre and post funding. It's finding the lender that's there for you all the time, and then that comes back to standards, doesn't it? It all comes back to standards.
Absolutely. And it's not always about being quick, because everybody says we're quick, we're fast. It's about actually having the right product for the right borrower, for the right customer that's going to give the right outcome. And there's a whole myriad of different things that are involved in finding that. And that's where a good broker comes in. And that's where the broker community adds its value and should be adding its value into you as a lender.
No, definitely. So over that 21 years, we'll park all the other stuff. I think the last 21 have been fantastic. What are you most proud of during that period?
A number of things. There's a huge event that goes on in June that I started in 2010, which I'm very proud of. There's some big dinners that I started in London. I'm also very proud of. That's just, I suppose, the fun part of it as well. But really along the way, for me, it's all about the succession. It's about that development of actually, well, where are we going to get the next set of brokers from? Where are we going to get the next set of lenders from? Where's that going to actually, where they're going to arrive? Because we didn't have, as I said at the very beginning, there's no career path for anybody to do that when they leave school. But we've developed that as an industry. So I'm really proud that we have that. And when I sit and host panels at different events, to see that diversity of people in age, in whatever it is, sitting on those panels and be able to talk about swap rates as good as anybody, it's brilliant for me. So I think that's probably one of the things I'm proud of.
And education's really coming to the fore now, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I think that the CPSP, we have a lot of work to do. One of the things that I'm currently doing at the moment is bringing everybody together, because obviously we have a lot of trade associations. So you imagine a scenario where we can all sit around the table and all talk about education. We can all talk about apprenticeships. And that's something that's in hand. I won't say a great deal more, but that's something that's in hand, so that as an industry, we're all collaborating together to provide that, as I said, that education, that succession.
The stronger the industry, the stronger the opportunities. Exactly. If you're operating in a strong environment.
Exactly, and the outside view that we perceive not only to our customers, but all to our intermediaries, but also to the regulator. To the regulator to say, look, this is what we're doing within our own industry. We are providing self-regulation. We are actually doing things as we should be doing, and having those conversations with Canary Wharf about whatever is needed to be had. So I think that's also very important that we continue that dialogue, and the BDLA and the HTL has in the past been very, very good at that.
Yeah, I think it's inspiring, certainly when you go to the annual conference and you listen to yourself and Vic before you as well, and it is about driving it forward, but not for personal gain. It's for the greater good of the whole industry. And
Exactly.
It's refreshing and rewarding, I guess.
Exactly. And you know, and as you know, our board are all volunteers, you know, that they do it for the love of the industry as well. So, and you know, and I've just formed a new board as well, as you know, and that board has got people from right across all different parts of specialist lending, especially property lending. And I think, you know, going forward, you're going to see even more growth, even more innovation in what the BDLA is trying to do.
Brilliant. Okay, and outside of work, do you get any time when you're not in Westminster or Whitehall? Or
I've got 6 grandchildren, 4 kids, another grandchild due next month. So
wow.
I was down the beach with 4 of the grandkids yesterday. So,
and that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
That's exactly what it's all about. We live in a seaside resort, so, and it was absolutely packed. And believe me, the British seaside holiday is alive and kicking. Having seen the beach yesterday in 25 degrees, it was amazing. So yeah, and the kids were down there. So yeah, my spare time. Mainly that.
So I live in a seaside town, but in the northwest. So we have one day a year where it gets busy, I think, and apart from that, it is normally wet and windy.
It was busy down in Somerset yesterday, that's for sure.
Fantastic, Adam. I could talk all day. I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much for coming to see us. It'd be great to have you back as well.
Absolutely.
After your first year in the BDLA and talk about some of the highlights.
Brilliant.
But obviously, Roma, are really grateful to yourself and the BDLA for all the work that you do. So
thank you.
Thank you very much. I thank you very much, everybody else, for listening and watching. Thank you.